Right. Yeah, that's very close to that. Yeah. This is yeah. That's what it is. That's the so I don't know if they want to say like what it is. Super. She's trying. He's stupid. He just stays with us. But also, it's no more function. That makes sure. Thank you. So, I think nothing for a while. That's there should be next one. You know, so beside this,
Okay, good evening. It's a little loud, but good evening. We're going to go ahead and get the Area Planning Commission December 4th, 2025 meeting in order to start. Can I get roll call, please?
Vicki Andrews here. Harry Baumgartner. Here. Tyson Brooks.
Here.
Rick Elwell.
here.
Jared Hahn.
Here.
Bill Moran.
Here.
Michael Carafin. Jeff Lance.
Here.
Tim Rohn. John Schumacher. Melissa Wilbur. Here.
Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, be advised if you are speaking this evening to talk directly in the microphone for everyone to hear clearly. Board members, the same item. If you choose to speak this evening, make sure the microphone is very near your mouth so that we can all hear what you have to say. With that being said, there's a packet of old minutes from our November 6th meeting in your packet this evening. Go ahead and take a peek at that and make a note of any corrections that we need to take a look at this time. We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion about the old minutes? All in favor, right hand. Opposed, same sign. Do we have any old items this evening? We do not. Okay, the first item on our agenda this evening, ladies and gentlemen, is A25-1224 Lancaster Township. It's the southwest quarter of 17-27 North 12 East. Trustees of the Murray Missionary Church request approval for a parking lot expansion. The property is located at 117 North Washington Bluffton, Indiana 46714, and it's currently zoned R2. Do we have a representative for that? Why don't you come on forward, state your name, and tell us what's going on?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Calvin Timms with Engineering Resources, and Murray Missionary. They're just proposing a new parking lot for their existing campus. They've got a little bit of a parking problem as it is right now, which is kind of a good problem, but right now they're parking across the street in some of the neighbors' properties. So what they're trying to do is expand their parking lot on the east side of their campus. There was a septic field that was there. It's been removed. They now take their sanitary line to the lift station that's just to the north of their property. They are planning on removing all of the old sanitary materials there. They're going to be burying them on the site at the required depth by item, and then they're just going to be paving over the top of that.
About roughly how many spaces?
I don't have a plan with me, so I'm not exactly sure, but I think around 30, 20 to 30.
Roughly. Anything on plan?
They are really detention area, kind of south, this is southeast corner of where you can add drains to this tile drainage that's there. It's doesn't drain into the tile, but solid area.
Is that oversized for the?
It's over. Their detention is more than adequate.
Okay.
Not oversized.
Two basin board members is on C 2.0 if you're curious. No, it's not. As far as Plaquemine review, I didn't find any issues with the proposed petition. Board members, any further questions? Okay, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is now the portion for public comment for any of our petitions. I would encourage you to, as a participating audience member, to keep your comments positive. The booing and the junior high things that have happened in the past need to cease. We're all professionals, we're all adults here, so if you are making a comment and you would like to comment on this, now's the public portion for that time. Okay, I'll officially close the public portion of the. Oh, I'm sorry. Come on forward, sir.
Are you asking for public comment on any matter of this person?
This petition. So we'll go petition by petition for public comment. My initial comments were just for all of the petitions, whichever one you decide you would like to.
Guys, call on. Why? Is that right?
Not.
When we have,
We do for the last side.
right, when we have a lot of people that want to speak and they sign the speaking petition, then we will call on that particular one for names. But for a normal meeting with normal petitions that are in there, we just open it up and then people just can show up if they feel like it. Thank you for the clarification. Okay, now I will officially close the public comment section for A25-1225. Board members, now is our time to discuss this and come up with a proposal, motion to approve, to modify, or to not approve. So now's our time for discussion.
I would make a motion to approve that submitted.
Okay, we have a motion to approve as submitted. Do we have a second? We have a motion and second on the board. Do we have any further discussion? All in favor, right hand? Opposed, same sign.
Okay, so with all petitions, there is a 30-day appeal period. If they wish to move forward with the project within 30 days, there is a document that they can sign at our office. So just let the communities know that we're good to go.
Thank you, sir. Item number 204 this evening is A 25-1226 Harrison Township, the northwest quarter of 5-26 North 12 East, Wells County Area Plan Commission, and the City of Bluffton request approval for a rezoning to B3. The property is located at 1613 West Cherry, Bluffton, Indiana 46714. It is currently zoned I1. Do we have a representative for that?
Oh, we skipped one. This number 20. This one.
Oh. let's see. Delete all that. Actual item number 204, A 25-1225 Liberty Township, Southwest Quarter 3626 North 11 East, Benito Baptist Church, request approval for a new church facility. The property is located at 5819 South Grape Street, Benito, Indiana 46781, and is currently zoned R1. Do we have a representative for that? This is deja vu.
All right, I'm Calvin Timms again. Hey, Calvin. Benito Baptist Church. So this project's a little bit more straightforward. They're removing their existing building completely and putting up a new structure. The building is about, I think it's about 500 square feet larger than the existing building. So it was a 25% increase in total site impervious area just due to that. There's no parking, no pavement else on site. We are doing a screening on the east side. There's a drive that's on the east side that their neighbors kind of use as an access to their driveway. And we're putting a fence up to separate the two, per the ordinance that requires screening.
Then a 6-foot fence.
That is what it's shown.
There will be a new sanitary connection from the building that's just gonna tie into the existing sewer tap.
Anything from Platt?
Just the note in Black Committee, that as was stated, it increases, they would consider it a substantial increase in hard surface because it's such a small, original project site. However, they would be covered by the stormwater exemption. This is just the note, there is no detention basin on the site because of that. So otherwise, didn't have any issue. The privacy fence is inset because there's an easement there for the driveway that's on the church's property that services the neighbors. Those are the things to note for the board. Otherwise,
Board members, any further questions for Calvin?
So there won't be any additional parking lot added,
No, there will be no new parking.
and then so no extra lighting or.
That's right.
there is no off-street parking on the site today.
It's kind of a gravel pull-off
Yeah.
in front, that I think is more of a drop-off lane than a parking, but I'm not sure if people park there on Sundays and that's there.
Sure.
Any further questions? Thank you, Calvin. Would anybody from the public like to make a comment on A 25-1225? Okay, public portion of this is closed. Board members, now's the time to discuss this one.
Mr. Chairman, I would need to approve the plan as presented.
Motion to approve the plans presented. Do we have a second? A motion and a second. Susan, get that? Who's got it?
Tim spoke and John understood.
Do the physical exercise. That would be the more healthy way. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, right hand. Opposed, same sign. Okay, now can I do the third one? Yes, we can. Okay, now the third one. Item 3 or 4 tonight. A 25-12-26 Harrison Township, the northwest quarter of 526 North 12 East, Wells County Area Plan Commission, and the City of Bluffton request approval for a rezoning to B3. The property is located at 1613 West Cherry Bluffton, Indiana 46714. Is currently zoned I1. Do I have a representative for that? Come on up and state your name and tell us what you want to do.
I'm Brandy Victor with the Bluffton Parks Department, and we are looking at putting in a community garden.
So this petition we're doing between the Area Plan Commission and the City of Bluffton. So the primary goal is to rezone the property in Houston from Industrial 1 to General Business B3. That is what the Vision 2035 plan shows, that this property should be zoned. If you're familiar with the property, this is where the animal shelter is located at, along with the water tower, future substation, and community garden location. So this will be on the far west side, past the county highway garage. So Miller, not that long ago, we rezoned the county highway garage property B3, consistent with the Vision 2035 plan, and then following up with that to rezone this property as well.
And it's just in the green.
Yes. Yep.
And then the routing will still be I1.
Yep.
Gotcha. The garden sounds pretty fun. We're a quiet group tonight, I guess. Board members, any further questions? Thank you. Now will be the time for public comment on A 25-12-26. Quiet group out there too. It's the weather, it's the snow. Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public portion of that. Board members, be advised on this one, that this is a do pass, do not pass, or no recommendation to the Common Council of the City of Bluffton. So keep that in mind when you're making your motion this evening, please.
I'll make a motion to pass recommendation.
Okay, we have a recommendation for a motion for a do pass recommendation to the Common Council of the City of Bluffton. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
You got that, Susan? All right, we got a motion and a second. Board members, any further discussion? All in favor, right hand. So same sign. Okay, item number 4 for this evening, board members, is A 25-12-27, and it's on our Wells County ordinance amendments. Before I get started on this, though, I do need to do a little bit of housekeeping. Ladies and gentlemen of the public, please bear in mind that the comments I'm about ready to make are intended not for sarcasm. They are not intended for any ill will. So I hope you don't take them that way. We are not discussing this evening basically if you are for or against solar. We're not discussing whether the APC can ban large-scale solar standards of the solar companies that are involved. We're not discussing the actual function of solar. We're not discussing federal energy policy or the recycling nature of solar altogether. What we are here to discuss this evening is the actual Wells County zoning amendments, the ordinance amendments, and there are 5 of them. So please tailor your comments to the 5 things that we are actually discussing this evening. Item number 1 would be to create new general regulations for small and structure-mounted solar energy facilities. Item number 2 of 5, to remove medium solar energy facilities. Item number 3 of 5 that we are discussing this evening is to amend non-participating pre-existing residents and non-participating property setbacks for large solar energy facilities. Item number 4, we need to amend the visual buffer requirement for large solar facilities. And item number 5, update solar energy facility definitions use acreage instead of nameplate power rating, which differs between classifications. Please bear in mind that these are the only 5 things that this board will be discussing this evening. Mr. Lotzenheiser?
Okay, so board members and public, just to go through the amendments, based on the results from our last meeting. We're gonna go through these and then open up to the board if you have any questions, and then we'll move to the public hearing after that. So in regards to, the zoning districts and where items are located at, so that table, the only thing to note there is we are removing the classification of medium solar energy facilities. So based on the last discussion, there will only be small and large and structure mounted, that would no longer be the medium classification. In general regulations, we're introducing, for the first time, specific regulations to small and structure mounted solar energy facilities. Small would be based that they would need to meet the setback and height limitations. So a small energy facility must meet all setbacks and height requirements for an accessory structure. It also have this use requirement: a small energy facility shall be located on the same parcel or contiguous property as the primary user of the generated energy. Projects are allowed to be interconnected with the grid. Structure mounted solar energy facility, setback and height limitations. A structure mounted solar energy facility must meet all setback and height requirements for the structure to which it is mounted. Use: a structure mounted solar energy facility shall be located on the same parcel or contiguous property as the primary user of the generated energy. Projects are allowed to be interconnected with the grid. Jumping in onto Article 14, which is the development plan section of the county zoning ordinance. The first amendment in 1408(3)(c)(a) has to do with non-participating property line setbacks. So this would remove the 200-foot requirement from property lines of non-participating property lines and make it that it meets the setbacks of the zoning district in question. So just in general, most of the properties would be zoned A1, that would be 20 feet. 1408(3)(c), non-participating pre-existing residence setbacks. A solar energy facility shall be at least 1,320 feet from the non-participating pre-existing residence, that being amended from 400. And then 1408(3)(l), visual buffers, adds in the statement that they be maintained, the visual buffer be maintained for the life of the project. That the residences that are buffered would have to be within 1,320 feet from a participating property. We talked about that they need to be reasonable opaque visual buffers, so you can't be able to see through them. And then we added that the buffer cannot be located within the public right-of-way, existing or proposed by the zoning ordinance. The buffer cannot be located within easement without compliance with section 1112 of the zoning ordinance. So those are the 3 changes to the development plan section. And then we jump into the ordinance definitions in Article 18. First, the big change, moving things from capacity to acreage. So large facilities would be those that are over 10 acres. We're removing the definition for medium. The small would be anything less than 10 acres. And the solar energy structure mounted, stays the same with that as well. Looking at that with an exemption of things that are under 30 square feet. Is a non-permitted item. So board members, are there any questions in regards to the amendments as proposed? They're also in your packets as a map demonstrating the setbacks. We provided that last time, but this is updated showing the 13-20 foot setback.
I believe you delivered everything that we had asked for you to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done. Members, any further discussion on the proposal? Okay, we will go ahead and open it up for public comment. Mr. Lotzenheiser does have a list of people that would like to speak this evening. Please be courteous of the amount of time. There's about 4.5 sheets worth of people that would like to speak this evening. So when you're ready.
Okay, Bill and Brooke Cushing.
Hi, I'm Brooke Cushing. He's gonna defer and just hang out back there, so. Based on the guidelines that you gave us as far as what we can and can't talk about tonight, I just wanted to ask clarification on the zoning district setbacks for a non-participating property. What was the distance from a property line versus a residence?
Okay, so this in general, assuming that the property be zoned A1, the property line setback from the non-participating property would be 20 feet. Or, and if it was a road frontage, it would be 60 feet. As that is the road frontage requirement. The non-participating resident setback is what is proposed at 1,320 feet.
Okay, so for instance, if a non-participating resident lives, say, on one part of a county road, but they also own farmland half a mile down the road or a mile down the road or whatever, and there's a proposed solar thing that's gonna go in there, if he owns a piece of property that's not where his house is, that could possibly be developed later for a family member or whoever, they're still gonna have to abide by the 20 feet zoning district. That's all I wanted to ask.
Thank you. Ben Herman.
Hello, I'm Ben Herman, and one of the things that I'm curious about is visual buffer, I guess. Before we made any changes, it would basically even go around the whole project. If I understand it correctly, now basically you gotta be 1320 before you get a visual buffer from a residence, but it can't be built with the proposed to 1320. So where would the visual buffer be? Is one of mine, and then what does that do with basically a visual buffer against a roadway? Do they still gotta put one within the 60 foot like it used to be, or was that voluntary at the beginning?
So the visual buffer requirement would be, their visual buffer would be required by the way it's crafted right now. Between any house that is within 1,320 feet of a participating property or property, not the project itself.
Okay,
So if the house is within 1,320 feet of the project properties, then it would require visual buffering.
okay.
And then any of that area would be what would be covered by the buffer.
And so it's not just where the project be built, outside perimeter fence, it's where they track with a participant. So if my house part butts up, my land part, there would have to be a visual buffer still.
That's correct. Yeah. So if the house is within 1,320 feet of a property in the project, it would not be.
Understand that. So, okay. And then in the last meeting, you guys were talking about where we're coming up with the numbers for the 1320. And you guys are gonna look into, around other counties. Did we come up with why they have their numbers at 2,000 or 1,500 and why we're setting it at 1,520? As you guys discussed looking into that of why they have theirs at it, and if theirs are at that, if we matched it, if we came up with a logical reason why that they had theirs there.
Yeah. So most of the communities that have a larger setback for project deterrence purposes. So they're not necessarily a science behind it. What we looked at as far as what setbacks are traditionally looked at or used for, which is to provide a visual buffer and provide a buffer between objectionable noise, light, glare, stuff like that, that would occur in and around the project site.
Okay, it was just something at the last meeting that we said we were gonna look into of what the reasoning behind there was, we would logical reason, basically if we were asked of why we've done this. So, but you came up with no logical reason for the other counties, they just made up a number.
That most of them created a number for project Detroit.
Okay.
Yeah.
And And then just for clarification again, whenever we're talking about large or small, we're talking about as far as the definitions, it is in the fence, basically. As far as 10 acres.
10 acres.
It's not just the land that it's on, it has to be in the fence of the project.
So the 10 acres, we believe, is the area that is covered by panels.
Make sure for the outside perimeter of the solar, so it's not just that they're gonna put on 10 acres, it has to be inside it. So it'd be more like
That's something, I think that's something that we can discuss, how that would be enforced.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a small system, it's a nice house. It isn't gonna have to be fenced in.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not gonna be inside the fence. It's gonna be the area covered by panels.
It was just to be for clarification.
Correct. Yeah,
That's
that's reason looking at the area that it would be the area that's occupied by panels.
okay.
The potential that a site might have maybe panels in one area and panels in another, they wouldn't be calculated this dead space between them
Okay.
in that, but yeah.
So I guess my last that I would like to hear discussion on is if we're coming up with a number, just then everybody else done as a deterrent, why we're coming up with the 1320 and why it can't be a 1500 or anything larger. And where our numbers coming from. So that's what I would like to hear discussion amongst you guys in the end. Thank you.
Jonathan Bender.
Good evening, everyone. Got prepared remarks here. My name is Jonathan Bender. I'm a resident of the county. I've spoken here a number of times in the past. So I appreciate this opportunity. I want to be clear, the proposed quarter mile setback for large projects is clearly a ban on solar projects. There's no parcel in this county that where any project, even a small one, could realistically fit within that requirement. And setbacks exist to protect the public from noise, odor, traffic, emissions, or hazards. But solar panels are 10 to 12 feet tall, silent, odorless. They emit nothing, and they generate no traffic once the construction is complete. So I ask, what safety hazard justifies setting solar panels a quarter mile away from every home? I think we know the answer. There is no answer. In fact, Michael, you just said it just a second ago from the last speaker. They're set that way as a deterrent. So that raises a bigger question, right? Why are we deterring solar? Is it about protecting our food supply? I don't think that's the case, because nearly half of Wells County's crops already go to biofuels, not to food. Using farmland for energy, if using farmland for energy were a problem, then I think that discussion would have happened decades ago. We're deterring solar because it helps to protect people's property values. I don't think this argument holds up, because the ordinance already allows for homeowners to participate. And when homeowners participate, they do that likely to receive a substantial compensation, potentially to receive any temporary change in home value. Are you deterring solar to protect the view of nearby homes? I don't think so, because even with a setback of just 600 feet, which is about 2 football fields, a 12-foot tall solar panel is barely visible, especially with vegetative screening. So if a quarter-mile setback isn't improving safety, protecting the food supply, or protecting property values, and it doesn't meaningfully affect the view from nearby homes, it only stops solar. Now, I want to acknowledge something that I think is important. A few meetings ago, this commission approved a large chicken CAFO, even though every speaker that night had spoke up in opposition to that project. That decision demonstrates that this board can, and probably often does, make difficult and unpopular decisions when you believe that they are in the long-term interest of the county. So why impose a ban on solar? Land use with no odor, no waste, no trucks, no emissions. And while the solar opposition is here tonight, I hope the commission also recognizes those of us who are here to support reasonable solar development, along with approximately 80 residents who submitted petitions asking you not to shut out solar. I understand some people don't want to live near solar, but Indiana is facing an energy situation that it has never faced before. The new Google data center in Fort Wayne could use as much electricity as the rest of the city. Amazon has announced a massive $15 billion data center campus in northern Indiana. Dozens of other AI-related data centers are being planned statewide. PJM and MISO have warned that parts of the Midwest may see demand double within a few years. At the same time, PJM says older coal and gas plants are retiring faster than they can be replaced. This is exactly why PJM, the regional grid operator for 65 million people, issued a warning letter that's listed on this commission's website that stated plainly that our region faces a capacity shortfall and needs new generation quickly. New barriers don't help that problem. Solar is the fastest and most scalable new generation available. If we block it, we lose one of the best tools we have to meet rising demand. And we all know what happens when demand outpaces supply. Prices go up, reliability goes down, and blackouts become more likely. Another serious problem with the draft ordinance is how it treats smaller solar projects. The ordinance requires small projects up to 10 acres to be located on the same parcel, contiguous property as the primary user of the generated energy. This framework doesn't make sense for community scale solar projects. Most community scale projects are designed to support the local grid, not a single primary user. Tying them to one user eliminates the very purpose of community solar and prevents the types of projects that benefit local ratepayers the most. Community scale projects provide more major benefits to local residents. They reduce the peak load demand. They improve grid reliability. They generate power right where it's needed. They reduce congestion and transmission losses. And ultimately, they help keep local electricity rates lower for everyone. This is why Indiana REMCs and the IMPA have built over 40 of these community solar sites across the state. Why would Wells County adopt an ordinance that shuts out a tool that every utility, public, private, municipal, and cooperative, is actively embracing? In closing, I respectfully ask this commission to take 2 practical steps. Adopt a balanced setback of 600 feet with plant screening for large projects. I think this maintains a reasonable visual buffer for nearby residents while also allowing for responsible solar development. Number 2, I urge you to modify the ordinance language around smaller projects. Remove the requirement that small projects be tied to a primary user of the generated energy. And for the size limit, I believe a 10-acre cap can be reasonable as long as it is defined as the panel area. This is a far more logical approach anyway, because it encourages farming between rows, something that requires wider spacing between the rows. I think encouraging dual use, solar and agriculture together, is something that we should be supporting and not restricting. These changes are reasonable and practical, and they align with what utilities across Indiana are already doing. Please ensure Wells County has a fair, workable path to solar, not an ordinance that shuts the door.
Thank you. One last day, here.
Thank you.
Your statements. Thank you.
All right, Brandon Harness. Thanks a lot for being here tonight, doing this work. This is really 5 months in the making now. I wanted to go back in time at the moment. I think it was August. I went to the commissioners. I gave them a draft ordinance of a date to our solar policy that would effectively ban large-scale utility solar. And tonight, after months of discussion, this is sort of the last leg of that process that began back in the late summer. The gentleman before me asked the question, why such a severe setback? And he is correct. The intent here is to ban this. That's what I went to the commissioners asking for. That's what the commissioners wanted this body to do. It's my understanding. That's why they didn't ignore it, but rather passed it along for review to the ABC. The reason why we want to ban this is because we have the will to do it. It's that simple. I'm not going to sit here and make an argument in terms of public safety. We simply have the will to do it, want it, ban it. Other communities can put this stuff in if they want to. If other communities want to power a data center for it, it doesn't belong here. That was the attitude I brought to the commissioners back in the late summer. That's the attitude I'm bringing tonight. I appreciate 320 feet, 1,320 feet. My preference would be higher still.
until there is not a drop of green ink on the map. Whether that's 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, the number can't get high enough. State doesn't let us put a permanent moratorium in place, so we use the tools that we're given as a county to achieve the results we want. And with that said, again, I appreciate the work we've done here. I think the policy is moving in the right place in terms of clarity, definitions. I think there's been a lot of good work here. The only thing I would ask is that when the vote is taken tonight, that someone make an amendment to just increase this to 5,000 feet and be done with it. That's what the commissioners, my understanding, that's what the commissioners want. They want to see this killed. They want the public wants certainty that some utility corporation isn't going to find a way to squeeze in a solar project. Let's just end this, finish it, be done with it. And that's my ask of the agency tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle Bowman.
I appreciate everybody, all the work you guys have been doing on this for the last, I know we've been messing with this for 2 years. 2 years. Just addressing, I just have a question, not a comment on the non-participating property line setback. Said it was 20 feet for ag. Okay, so to put that in perspective, my house, I have my living room. It's 30 feet long. I have a 30-foot long living room, and I'm thinking 20 feet from the property line, to me, is not far enough. If it's 60 feet from road, I would love to see that at least 60 feet all the way around the property line. My husband's a farmer, and 20 feet, when you're out farming, 20 feet is not very, very far. So I would love to see that increased from 20 feet to 60 feet at minimum. I agree with Brandon, the 1,320 from a non-participating residence. Yes, that's a quarter mile, but I look out my window, I can see a quarter mile. I would still see panels if they happen, to be in my neighborhood. The farther the better. Make it as hard as for them as they can, we can make it, so they don't want to come in. Years ago, they did a survey, Wells County survey, to see what kind of things that they wanted to bring in for economic development. Solar was not on it. So the majority of the people said they don't want it here. So we need to make it as hard as we can. If this ordinance passes, as is, or with minor revisions, would, and you may or may not know this, I don't know, would you know if a company would come in and try to put in an application for a overlay district? Would that be something that you guys would say, nope? Try to keep that from happening?
Are you asking whether we would be allowed to file the petition?
Yeah. If it would.
If somebody files a petition, it'll be filed.
Okay.
Or we can't. Somebody can file it.
Okay, so that would be discussed and decided on. I mean, you guys could say, no, we don't want to pass it or whatever if somebody did that, or how does that work?
It's a rezoning petition, just like the rezoning that we had today. the plan commission decides at a public hearing whether they want. to-
Okay, so that could possibly be down the road another issue. If they came in and wanted to do that,
That's said to somebody,
because we've been given a heads up that that's what they want to do. Just if you hadn't heard anything yet. Letters have been sent out to people saying that that's what they were going to do. That's what they plan to do, just to let you know. So anyway, I would like to see that, one setback increased. And again, I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Michelle.
David, Owen? Okay. Pollyanna Weimer? Frederick, if you want to come in, there you go.
Hi, I'm Holly Weimer, and I just want to commend, praise, and thank all of you protecting this county. We love the commissioners. We love what you've done. The 1320 is great compared to what we have. I want it to be stated that 5,000 would be terrific, wonderful, and we would never have to be in this position of being here until midnight again, because they wouldn't come because they could not do it financially, and it would not be a profit. I was born in this county. We love the rural agricultural vibe of it. People want to be here for that reason, and you guys have made it possible to stay that way. And we definitely appreciate it, and you're filtering through this process and hearing what the majority of the county wants. It's wonderful, so thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for your due diligence and taking care of the county and the people of the county. And also being wise about projects coming in. The local businesses that are here, you help them thrive the best that you can within the means that you have. And that is to be commended. That is a part of local growth, not that outside investment might be needed at times, but for protecting the farm ground, for protecting the lifestyle, which is very important to a lot of people that move here for that purpose. One thing I wanted to go along with what Michelle had said, that these projects, with the ordinances that we hope get approved to be sent on to the commission, variance can be asked for, petitioned for at any time. Then they have to go through the steps to prove the need and viability of what they want to do. So there are more steps that can be gone through petitions, that type of thing. So the 1320 is a good starting point. Larger is better in my point, in my viewpoint, but nothing is completely certain because of due process. So we thank you for your due process now, and we hope to keep the county as clean and as agricultural green as we can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, we've been dealing with this in not only Wells County, but Huntington County as well. And we've seen so many times back on the table, back on the table. As long as the money's there to make, it's always going to be back on the table. And we also would agree with Michelle's 60-foot setback. Even more would be great. I can't think 20 feet would do anything from here to there. That's, if I had to look at that, and the potential of these people who have farm ground that are potential lots. We deal in real estate a lot. And building sites, my God, those would never be able to be building sites taken off of an original farm property. And you're looking at a 2-acre lot for $75,000. And that's gone. That income for that farmer, if they have, what is it, 5 or 6 cuts now, and they have the original farm. So if it's 6 cuts allowed, they're losing 5 times $75,000. Or their descendants are losing that possibility. That's not fair. No one wants to look at the panels, and no one's going to build and give the tax money to this county for a $800,000 house that they would put on that 2 acres, which is happening today. So you won't get the tax money from the cutoffs because nobody's going to want them. So the gentleman that spoke about things that we've already talked about in the past, it's all about the companies making money. And it's going to bring down the quality of life of the people who are already here. And there's nothing they can say to support anything different when it comes to real estate. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. President, I have exhaustively seen that list.
Thank you. Is there anybody else from the public that would like to speak? Now would be your opportunity.
My name is Stan Straga. I'm with the Land and Liberty Coalition. I did sign up, so I don't know if that sign up list didn't make it up here, or maybe I did something wrong there.
That's okay. You're here now.
I appreciate it. I apologize. I've been doing this for 3 years with Land and Liberty Coalition and traveling all around the state. And I was in trouble with those sign up sheets. I'm not really sure why. I don't know if I don't follow instructions very well, but one thing that I know I didn't do very well back in grade school was run the mile. I always remember finding myself in the back, behind the bleachers at the football field or whatever. The 13-25-foot setbacks. Thinking about that a lot, and thinking about what are the fastest humans on earth run a quarter mile in. 400 meters, basically a quarter mile is what you get in the Olympics. 43.03 seconds. Pretty good. It's pretty fast. For me, I get about 100 feet down the road. I get up here to my chair and I'm out of breath a little bit. 1,325 feet is a distance to run, a distance to look at. We can't sit in this room, obviously. It's not 1,325 feet long, but we can't sit in here and even visualize what that looks like down on the straight line. I don't know if any of us can. Maybe some of us have better eyes than I. But as I said, I've been doing this for 3 years, and this is one of the first times I've ever seen this non-participating property line setback meet within the required setback of the zoning district. I think that's just kind of a very interesting way to do it, especially when you're talking about farms butting up against each other. A lot of counties normally they just find a round number that works for them for those non-participating property lines rather than using the current zoning districts for that. So I can't comment on what that would mean for a project. I would assume that it would be very positive for a developer here in Wells County that says, hey, we only have to worry about a 20-foot setback between us and that non-participating property line. So I think that's great. Like I said, I can't say I've seen that across the state for those, but yeah, the 1320 or 1325, I think I put 1325 on my notes. It's 1320 in here. It is quite a long distance, and obviously I've been here a few different times. I've spoken out against these large setbacks here in Wells County, and I'll continue speaking out against them because it just puts undue stress on the property owners, as well as a private company who is looking to invest millions of dollars into your county, not only with the project itself, that you're gonna get a lot of tax benefits from that, but we don't need to get into all that today, because we're not discussing that efficacy there, but we are discussing the setbacks and the undue stress that it puts on the property owner and the development company that comes in, because they have to make sure that they are so far a quarter mile. I will add again, 43.03 seconds for the fastest person on earth running away from property. And I get it. We put these things in place. Counties put them in place all over the state to protect the owners on both sides. But like the gentleman said earlier, I think 600 would be a pretty good, meet in the middle. That's still 200 meters, almost to about 200 yards, at least how we talk here in the United States. Away, and I did with sprints in football back in high school, and I know I can't run those pretty fast either. So we were talking a very long distance when you get into the meat of things. 600 feet is still a very sizable distance. It allows for development. It doesn't kill projects. I know that the goal here is to kill projects, and I know the APC isn't going to say it. My counterparts on the other side will. But 1,320 feet is just undue stress on private property owners who wish to use their land for, energy development, just like another person who might have, 10, 20, 15 acres, I don't know, of land that wants to split up that land into a louder neighbor, maybe a neighbor that might cause a little bit more stress to people. A residential neighbor is a little bit more noisy than a solar panel. So I get it. It's a tough thing. You guys have been doing some great work on this. I do appreciate the ability to hear and talk, and even though sometimes I'm a little bombastic and out there, and might come off as rude, I do appreciate the work that Wells County is putting into this, whether it's resident sitting behind me or you on the board or the commissioners here in Wells County as well. So applause to you. I'll give you even more applause and maybe a pat on the back. Down a candy store back home. I'll maybe bring some candy too. Next time, have a little bit of fun with it. But appreciate it again. Hope you make the right for property owners, all property owners in this case, and get rid of the quarter mile undue stress on those private property. Thank you for your time.
Dan?
Yes, sir.
Did a little number crunching, and you were saying it's hard to visualize 1,320 feet. That equates to about 440 yards. That would be a par 4 at a golf course, and I can see that play.
Yeah, unless there's a dog leg, right?
And I can also see the ball going into the water.
All right, appreciate it.
Good evening. Thank you all for doing phenomenal work on this.
Start with your name, please.
Megan Dunham. Thank you, Megan. It's been a long, long road to get here. And I just want to reiterate that you are doing the work that the vast majority of this community wants you to do. I'm just reiterating that the comprehensive plan support development for solar in Wells County, it was a survey done a few years ago, and well over half, if not more, vast majority of the population of Wells County voted no for solar. So I just want to put that out there, and thank you all for doing phenomenal work.
Thanks, Megan. I believe that's the heat kicking on, and I'm freezing. I don't know about the rest of you, but
I'm glad.
thank you.
I was hoping that wasn't the wind picking up. That's the cold.
Brandon, it's the heat, brother. That's all I'm asking for right now. Just go ahead and state your name.
My name is Rick John Rose, and I live here in Lawrence County. I would like to address the small scale a little bit. Just in my work in real estate and farm management, I've had some experience with some of these community solar projects, and yeah, I think the standard for that, they're talking like in the neighborhood of 30 acres. And I think that you can tuck in 30 acres somewhere and almost be out of sight from, neighbors and that kind of things. I guess I would encourage you to think about increasing that from 10 acres to 30 acres. Now, I know that kind of gets back to the medium scale, but to just keep things simple, maybe just do the small scale and large scale. Also, I've had some requests for manufacturing sites and there were some of those requests, they asked for 10 to 20 to 30 acres of solar so they can power their facilities. So if we limit it at 10, I'm afraid we say, hey, Wells County's not open for business for what you're wanting. I think we need to keep maybe a more open mind to some of those kind of facilities. Also, I know there's a lot of companies that are looking to relocate or locate somewhere, then they want to be carbon neutral. That means using some kind of renewable energies. And I think we need to keep that avenue open also by being able to allow, say, say put a 30-acre community solar project in somewhere. Some manufacturer, somebody might come in a little bit closer to that then and build. Like I said, I'm about keeping Wells County open for business and looking at new opportunities. And I think by restricting it down to 10 acres, I'm afraid we might, cut some potential out of that area. So I guess I just want to throw out that maybe look at 30 acres instead of 10 for small scale. Like I said, just to keep more options open for business here in Wells County. And the other thing, small scale, you tie that right into the grid, which means you lose, you hear sending all that energy somewhere else. With the small scale, it ties right in. I think we have opportunity in Bluffton. You can put some small scale solars projects, community projects, to where they can tie in the Bluffton energy package and be able to help get some energy for Wells County or for the Bluffton area. So I guess I would just encourage looking at a little larger acreage on that to keep opportunities open. So thanks. Thank you.
Hold on, Fred. We have someone. Sorry, really. Ladies first.
Hi, my name is Tabby Fate. And I just want to point out that thank you guys for always, I mean, you guys are in a hard position because you always have to make your hard decisions and everything. I appreciate you guys always listen to everybody. I do want to say that, you know, one guy was saying that all the other counties are embracing these opportunities. I mean, every single county around us through the whole state of Indiana is fighting these companies. And I don't feel like that's embracing solar. If you go to every county where they're trying to get these in, even Blackwood County, they are sinking in these things. And there are so many people upset trying to sell their homes and everything. There's a lot of people upset. People are not embracing these just because people that are for solar listen to the people that are for it. They're the ones trying to embrace it. There's a lot more people not embracing it than solar people. It does, really upset a lot of people. And I do appreciate what you guys do and everything. I just wanted to point that out that, there's no counties embracing this full force. Everybody's fighting. So
Thanks, Ted.
thank you.
Fred Weiler. I just had a question. So the ordinance today that you're proposing that you send to the commissioners or whatever you vote on, that's for ag, correct? A1? Is that for industrial? Is it the same ordinance for both ag and industrial?
It's not, so the ordinance that's proposed is not different between, it is following original zoning package.
Okay, but I'm saying if you have an industrial complex, does it follow the same ordinance for construction and requirements for setbacks for size?
Per the way that it's drafted. If it is a small one, it meets that, and if it's a large, it meets the other. But yes, it's consistent.
Okay, that's what I wanted to check.
Large can only go in the areas where the P1 overlay district is followed.
Okay, all right, that it does clarify that.
Industrial agriculture.
All right, thank you.
So what more it looks like.
Hello, Diana Collins, and I do have a few questions and some statements as well. On Article 14, the development plan, the 14-08, the non-participating property line setbacks, I believe there ought to be some setbacks. I think it should be the same as a pre-existing residence.
Ma'am, could you get in your microphone a little bit?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Usually I talk pretty loud, so yeah. But anyways, do you want me to start over?
You're good. You're fine. We
Okay.
heard you.
Anyways, I think the non-participating property line should be more. It should have something, at least whatever the pre-existing residence is. And I agree with Brandon Hardy. Let's bump her up, make it more. And also, I did notice where on the non-participating pre-existing residents, at the end, it just says pre-existing residents. What does that mean? Does that mean like my grass,
Well, residents are mean where you're.
the structure?
Yes.
Okay, that needs to say property line as well. That, we don't want that. It needs to be pre-existing residents, that's okay, but add property line to that. The other thing is the visual buffer. I'm not quite understanding that totally, because it looks like if it's the 13-20 feet from the residence property line, does that mean that within that 13-20 feet they can put their trees and vegetation or whatever they want to put in there up to the right of way of the road?
So the buffer does not have to fit in the setback, if that's your
I'll
question.
say that again.
The buffer does not have to be the buffer doesn't have to meet the setback. So the buffer can be in the setback.
And what can they do in that buffer? If it just the trees and like vegetation, does it include animals? Does it include whatever they want to do?
So that'd be all the other agricultural land use potential that would be there. If it was zoning wrong, that would be all the other ag uses.
Yeah. That needs to have setback as well then. And besides, I forgot to say, I am also from Liberty Center, out at the project. And yeah, I agree. Let's put the setback a lot more. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, Allison Alma, Liberty Center, close to the project. Sorry, kind of nervous, so I'm just gonna read what I have. Do appreciate your hard work. It's been a long process. Nobody wants to be here, I'm sure. I just kind of wanted to circle back to the 2035 vision plan and it does state in there that we are not in favor of large scale solar. And that also that survey that was taken back a couple of years ago, that was really evident that we weren't in favor of that as well. So I'm just hoping that you keep that in mind when you take your vote. Thank you.
Okay. At this time, I will close the public comment portion of the meeting this evening. Board members, we have several questions to get through, several items to discuss based on public comment. So now would be the time to bring those up. I guess I can start. Mr. Herman asked where our numbers were coming from for the 1320.
I'm the guy that suggested.
And you were the guy.
And so you look at me, right?
Yeah, sorry, I should have looked the other way.
I'm gonna say that was a completely arbitrary number that I just threw out 1320. It's a quarter of a mile. It's just completely arbitrary.
Okay, well, I feel like we also were discussing the last meeting that we were trying to get close to the surrounding counties matching.
Yeah. And
Okay,
depending on the county, where to go, some are 2,000 feet, some are 300 feet.
yep,
Depends on where you go.
okay. Are we at all interested in discussing increasing the 1320?
I guess, can I go back to one other?
Yeah, go ahead.
So,
I'm moving too fast.
well, so there's kind of two things we're talking about. One is the small scale stuff. The other is the commercial stuff.
Right.
So can we kind of like, let's figure out the small scale.
Okay.
Make some change.
I'll table that.
Well, can we go through that? I think there's good points brought up.
I think so.
Can we talk about that, I guess? And then let's talk about the commercial.
Okay.
There were some good points brought up.
Yeah, let's talk small scale first then.
And I guess that's something that I don't want to make. I don't want to make our rules when it comes to the small scale. I don't want to hurt a business. I don't want to hurt a home. I don't want to hurt somebody that wants to put it up for themselves to be self-sufficient. I don't want to do that. And I'm the one I think it suggested that we do away with medium scale. You know, so small, large. That's, you know, it's either small scale solar or it's not. I think one of the points that was brought up, and I've done some research on this. I think as Mr. John knows, I think we said 30 acres maybe should be the cutoff. Some research that I've seen, 20, 25, I think might be like that small scale for a factory for that sort of thing. Maybe that's the I don't know that. I think the average is kind of about 20 from what I've seen. So maybe that's a better number, I guess. Just throwing it out. Something else that was brought up, I guess I'm going to throw out hypothetical. If Peyton decides that it wants to do solar for part of their power, but they don't have the property to do it on. And they want to lease ground off the ethanol plant. How would we handle that? They're gonna lease 10 acres off the ethanol plant or whatever for a solar. There's a railroad in between. So it's not adjacent, it's not touching. But it doesn't matter. If the railroad wasn't there, it would be the same result. It's a railroad. How do we handle it? Do we need to just say that it needs to be either on their property or in close proximity or something like that so that it can be nearby? But it may not be the exact next property over. I think there was some discussion about like community scale solar. Say the city of Bluffton decides to buy into something like that in the future. If it's next to a city park or whatever, is that it's going to go into the grid? It's going to be used by the residents of the community. Is that okay?
So is a community solar project that the community privately just pays for, installs, and then helps power their community?
It's usually installed by our company.
But it's contracted privately by the community.
The community may pay, the community may pay into the project through their electric bill or whatever to help pay for the project, but they don't. But it may save them energy costs. You follow me? So
like
they may be
I
going
was
to pay.
contacted at one point to say, hey, you qualify for free installation of solar, blah, blah, blah. It could lower your bill. That's a community solar?
No, that's more of a home.
Okay.
Community is more, say the city of Bluffton or as I say, Wolverine is going to build a 10-acre site somewhere nearby Bluffton. It's going to have to be on a farm. It's got to be a park or somewhere close by. It may not be right next to where it's going to be used. It's going to go into the grid, in the city of Bluffton's grid. It's going to be used by city residents, but it's not. It may not be exactly next door to where it's going to be used. So we have a problem with that, I guess. If it's a half a mile outside of Bluffton, is that a problem? It's not going to be too far away because they're not generating enough power to push it down the line and not have much line access. So they're going to want to keep it close, but it may not be exactly next to it. If that makes sense.
That helps me understand it better. Thank you.
And I don't know how we word that. Or if we want to change it, maybe I'm the only one that's throwing it out there. But could it be that it has to be in close proximity to where it's going to be used?
I'd say if we were going to look at that, we would just remove the proximity part out of it. Because what is the enforceableness of close proximity? Or if we put a term in there and it's not something that would easily be like, yes, that is 100% 1 square feet, okay, then it's not. So there's two pieces to that. Community solar wouldn't fit that piece because it says that it has to be used by the end user, the primary user generated.
So like that with community solar, I was thinking.
Yeah.
The end user is everybody. Okay.
Yeah.
If it's close to one of their properties, they're one of the users. I mean, is that, I'm asking, I don't need the answer to that question. How would we do that?
Right now, I would say that that's not what it's intended.
Are we intending to not allow it? That's the next question. So I say, I'm just asking the question.
Yeah.
If our intent is not to prohibit that, we probably need to change our language. Yeah. If our intent is to prohibit it, then the language is probably fine.
Okay, well, all right, so I think it was Jeff
You didn't your
Microphone.
Oh,
I think it was John Bender that brought up some of this as well. And I think part of the original
more microphone.
I think part of the original way that we worded this was to prevent the stringing together of small projects and circumventing, you know, some of the things that we'd already discussed and put in the ordinance for large projects. So I, you know, such as like where it needed to be, you know, next to the primary user. I think that was the intent of that initially, was to stop a circumventing of it by doing like a series LLC or something, stringing together tens or hundreds of these things.
Right.
So I think the original intent was to severely restrict it.
So if we restrict it to like 30 acres, 20 acres, 10, whatever we say, like, does that restrict it enough that you couldn't try to string those together? It's just 10 acres. That's per user, or like if you're going to do community solar, it can only be 10 acres or whatever number they set up. Like that's it. I mean, is that a solution for that problem?
If we did that, or we restricted it, we would just see more petitions asked for the board to hear how we needed to fix that problem and expand it. They would ask for exemptions and that type of situation. That's what it would create.
But I mean, we think when the petition was filed, we would know that like, oh, this is trying to game the system.
Yeah, I like your idea of going from 10 to 20, but that's about it, really. I like the wording where it's at. 10 to 20 is fine. Thoughts on that?
Well, so another question a gentleman brought up about asking for variance.
Yeah.
So would that be something with the BZA? If somebody said, hey, we're not gonna put it on the next crop under the over one, is that something with the BZA? Like they could ask for a variance or something like that.
So this is an interesting part. So the size difference is in the definition section of the ordinance, and it's not a development statement. So no, I don't believe the Board of Zoning Appeals have the power
On the size,
on the size.
but on its location, if it were one parcel over, not on an adjacent parcel, could they do that?
Yes, they could, for the items in 1115 of the general regulation, yes, the BZA would have the ability.
So maybe that's the answer for the.
Keep it at 10 and add another 10. You're saying keep it at 10 and then.
No.
No, it's saying that if the
It
flex.
would go to like 20.
Right.
But if for whatever reason, they don't have the acreage at their back, they can't get acreage next door to a factory, they've got to go over another parcel, they could ask for a variance.
Right.
Yeah.
To not be directly adjacent.
Yep.
So then it sounds like the mechanism to do that already exists.
Yeah, that is what the Board of Zoning Appeals would be set to do.
So
What
does it
they-
matter if it's 10 or 20 then, if that mechanism exists? Do we need to change it from 10 to 20 or can we leave it at 10?
No, I think we would have to change the 20 part because the BZA would not be able to
Yeah.
change that. They could change where it is located, or they would be able to do a variance where it's located.
So we're changing it for a hypothetical community solar project that may or may not happen.
Well, I think what Jared's saying is that in the event, uses example again, that the railroad went through and they own that sliver of property running through there, that they would be able to go through a variance process with the BZA to get permission to not have that connected to say their chip factory. Okay, so they could produce solar on the other side of that property and pump it over a line to them, but they would have to go through that process to do that. So, and what I'm saying is this mechanism already exists, and I don't think that we need to do anything with that. I think the way that it's worded is okay.
But we can only use that mechanism if we increase it to 20, not 10.
It wouldn't
No,
matter.
no.
That
mechanism would only have to
we do 20 acres, not 10. If we're gonna allow us 20 acres for a business or whatever to do their own solar, we've got to say 20. in the ordinance. They would not be able to change that. The BZA. They would be able to give a variance that it doesn't have to be located on an adjacent property. That it could be a property or whatever.
So what's the thought process of changing it from 10 to 20?
I think for factories and some of them, they're gonna be looking at bigger, more than 10 acres. To actually make a pencil out for a factory to do it. They're gonna be looking at a 20 acre project. To make it really pencil. I mean, you think about how much electricity the ethanol plant uses or paint uses or whatever, they're talking 10 to 20 acre parcel or 20 acre project.
And how many manufacturing plants are there in those comments? Do we? have-
How many manufacturing plants are there? I don't have a count of them, but there are some manufacturing plants that are significant. And 10 acres might not be enough for them. If you use the 3 or 4 acres a megawatt, that's pretty common out there. There are certain facilities that use more than what 10 acres would provide.
And I guess I'm also gonna say, chances are, if it's a business, it's gonna be in an area that's zone industrial, not a lot of houses around. So you're not gonna have to worry about a lot of houses there. It's gonna be another business that's next door. So just throw it out, I guess.
I think 10 acres is a little small for a small scale solar setup. 20 acres gives you 8 megawatts. That's not a tremendous amount of power in today's world. It's just not. It's not enough to do utility scale solar. But it might be enough to power something. 10 acres is not. That's 4 megawatts.
It might be the difference between a company staying here because they can do it versus going somewhere else. Because of the power cost.
And by company, you mean manufacturing, not.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, a manufacturing company, it may be the difference between them staying here or leaving here. So, I say just throw it around.
We routinely get double-digit megawatt requests from potential economic development companies that are looking in the area. And as far as the city's concerned, there's only so much we can do. We've just built a new substation. So, I mean, I think 10 might be a little small.
So Rick, are you thinking 20 as well?
What's that?
Are you thinking 20 as well? Put from 10 to 20?
At least.
Well, I can say that if we come to a place where the difference between 10 or 30 acres for a plant either staying here or coming here would mean that our energy has gotten so expensive that we'll be here having this very discussion again.
It's a good point. Decide, how do you feel going from 10 to 20?
I would rather see for 30.
What do you say?
30. He said 30. Melissa, what do you think?
I don't know, I battle between, we're now talking about doubling and tripling it for however many potential manufacturing, which does affect hundreds and hundreds of jobs in Jones County. Compared to what are the repercussions of that? Otherwise, of all of those other properties for non-manufacturing, where the impact on.
In regards to this, might be a comparison of having a site on and with an existing facility and then one that is like a community.
So we're gonna
project that's-
expand it so that there's a potential for manufacturing to support it, but then that kind of loosens it up on the or property owner kind of losing that, but now we're opening up that larger in their agricultural area.
Yeah.
I mean, if there was any way to say that like special circumstances or consideration for, you know, direct connection to manufacturing versus just anybody can do now from 10 to 20 to 30.
I think if you take our language the way it is, it's gonna kind of limit it. It's gonna have to be put to somebody.
That primary user of earthage in there. If you're putting up 30 acres, though, we do think you can connect it to the grid. I mean, the question arises is what house? Primary user of 30
I don't think
acres.
you're not putting an array that size, but it's for a business. That's just.
And what it's doing is it's limiting it, like you said, I think. More business oriented, manufacturing oriented, and pushing the other projects will need to start to meet large.
So hypothetically, if Tabby came here and wanted to put in a 30-acre solar and she says, nope, I'm the primary user. Okay.
I think in this, there's also limitations on what the company would allow. So today, you're not allowed to put in more than what you, there's a calculation, there's limitations to what you can do.
And that's,
So you can't just build out.
I'm my customer. If I want to hook that support to the grid, I can only put in a solar array equals what I used the average of last year. I can't build a 10 megawatt solar array at my house and be connected to the grid. I can't do it.
And the reason
None of us can.
I'm just trying to consider any potential
Yeah,
loopholes
yeah, let's.
that this opens up that we might go, oh, shoot. we didn't think of
The reason why 1,300 feet is an effective ban is because the build out costs are so high that the acreage number comes down enough that they start to say, well, we're probably not going to be to do this anymore. And so that's where those numbers come in. So, you know, if you say, well, I'm gonna just go do 30 acres, but it's for my house, and I've this loophole to put it into the grid and make all this money, like Jared had said is correct, but you're probably also below the profitability on it. By the time you buy wide transformers and things, it will take a very long time to get that paid back.
So we're comfortable at 20.
I like 20 better than 30.
We can always revisit that down the road someday if we need to.
Everybody go with 20?
Yeah.
20.
It's at 20. Anything else on small?
I think that was all I had.
Okay, let's move to large. I guess the major question that came up repeatedly was the spec of participating or not participating non-resident from 20 to 60 to match the roadways. Thoughts on that?
Answer the specific question of the which way setback in the A1 zoning district would be the setback all the way around the property. Right. And not so not using the A1 zoning or I1 zoning or any zoning setback, but actually setting.
How would we manage that?
So
Right now it's
if it's industrial property, it would be whatever the setback is for I1. Can you make a special setback that's just for A1? Just for this, can you make a special? Could you say it's whatever it is in every other zoning district, but in A1 it's whatever, 60 feet or whatever it is?
Yes.
Can you do that?
Yeah.
Or can you do that? Yes. And that buffer will be in that area. correct?
Well, so in this situation, so this part of it, this setback would only come into play if non-participating residents wasn't completed. So you wouldn't use the non-participating property rights, but unless if there wasn't a residence pushing it already further. The way that you put it together, that the non-participating property line setback would only show up on a property that had no house on it and not within the the neighboring residence. You wouldn't see it it would only happen in those specific locations. So it's not both happening. It's so the buffer wouldn't necessarily be in it unless if it was buffering a house that the setback is probably already there or be close to it.
So, well, some of the discussion over the last several meetings is about preservation of farmland. The more we make that setback, but it's not really big enough to farm. It kind of defeats the purpose of preserving farmland. That's the downside of doing it.
Well, I think one of the things that I'm noticing is if you are in this area and you own a field half a mile away and you want your future children or family to build in that field, and then the solar panels come in, then it's too late and the setback for that house is 20 feet.
No, the setback.
No,
The
if
setback to
either-
the farm.
no, if it's a blank field, it's a blank piece of property, the setback to the non-participating is 20 feet. And if I bought that field to build on, then I'm just stuck. I don't get the 1320 because it was a field at the time of the bill.
Depends on where you build. Say it's a 80-acre farm, it's quarter mile wide, half mile deep. Depending on where you build, you might have a 1,300-foot setback.
Right, but if you got a small, that's what I'm just saying. I think that was the concern that I got this small little piece that my kid wanted to buy one day, and the panels are going to be 20 feet away from it.
Unless it's already a small piece.
That's what I'm saying. So, does that make sense? What I'm trying to say?
Thanks.
So,
I
like,
understand what you're trying to say, Tyson. I agree with that. I think that is like preservation of the future, which is something that this board typically does try to do with responsible land management. That, yeah, we don't want to force, hundreds of feet of just vacant dirt just because we don't want this or that close. But at the same point, to consider future growth with future farms, whether it's a farmhouse that it's going to be a new farm that they're going to build, or that, they're kind of going to lose with that 20 feet, but I mean, nobody's going to win, but future consideration, 20 feet does seem a little short, in my opinion.
Mike, on the map, is the blue lines, the roadways, the 60 feet? Is that what the blue is?
Yes, that's what you're seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the blue outline.
The
Well,
blue would be,
at that, yeah.
yeah, so
projection
the
is-
blue lines are the 60 feet. And then you can kind of look at like tiny little fields around and see little tiny green lines around the woods there. Those little tiny green lines would then be the 20-foot versus the 60.
Yes, yeah, you're looking at that.
If that helps.
I would like to pair Jared's concern about the setbacks potentially making land unfeasible. I'm pretty certain that like you hand on a combine's 200 foot wide these days. So
Only when you meet one on the road.
yeah,
So true.
yeah, I do want to pair that we should, inadvertently creating a buffer zone there by moving that 20 to 60 foot on the non-participating regions without choices. Also, I do want to discuss at some point the verbiage of structure versus residence.
So, okay, we'll get there, I guess. What do we want to do with the 20? Keep the language as is, matching what's.
I hate to see us make a rule that it makes this strip of ground that then doesn't get made anything. It's not farmed.
Right.
It just grows up weeds, whatever. It doesn't, you hate for us to farm.
I understand both sides of it.
I mean, a lot of farmers today, their sprayers 120 foot wide. You know, it's gonna make it harder to farm if it's a 60-foot buffer. There's a downside to it as well. I mean, I understand you want to try to make that buffer a little bit bigger. Yeah, we do it.
Mr. President, is there anybody on this board or maybe in the room that could answer that particular question you, Jared, and I? Whether 60 foot is going to make this the ground just lay and have nothing down it because it can't be farmed?
I mean, it would be less desirable to farm.
If you could have a 60-foot, like how easy is that to farm, or is it unfarmable with today's equipment?
Anything can be farmed. It's, I know that you're looking at the people that have the large equipment. There are people who have smaller equipment.
It's gonna be from, like I said, I just don't want us to create these 60-foot patches like this is. Don't want us to cause that.
I highly doubt that they're just gonna leave it lay, but
My guess is that somebody will try to farm.
yeah.
That's my guess. Maybe. I mean, most grain tables 30 foot. I mean, you could theoretically do it. With 60 foot.
Yeah, I think we're splitting hairs at this point.
Do we want to change that or are we leaving it alone?
So Jeff, your question is, can a 60-foot setback be farmed?
Yes.
Effectively, that's my question.
I mean, you could put
Is-
hay on it, but
Is Randy Plummer still here?
No, he left.
Mr. John Lowe's, are you here?
what's your question?
It's not come at this point. I see you, but we're gonna hold off for a second. Come here, please. You're in the hot seat, sir.
So the discussion has been, whereas the non-participating setback for 20 foot, moving that to 60 foot, and Jared and I concern are we gonna create some sort of zone it's not gonna be profitable or worth spending the diesel fuel to keep maintained at 60 foot?
Right, versus 20. My opinion would be that 60 foot would still be put in the ground and have to be done. I don't think there's a lot of guys want to mess with a 60 foot buffer, and I mean, the equipment's just too big. I mean, most grain tables are over 40 feet now, so you're talking about, yeah, or bigger. It's just 60 foot isn't much anymore. I mean, smaller guys got smaller equipment, but those guys they're few and far between, and there's getting to be less of them. They just don't make small equipment like that anymore. You can't go to auctions and buy small equipment. So, it's mostly big farmers that are, I know on all my farms down there that are within one of the projects. I don't know if I've got anybody really want to even mess with 60 foot. So it's probably going to be grass and half feet better. So you're just like bring them up 20 feet or 60 feet. I believe though, it's already contracted within you got the farm lease. I think they're paying even for the buffer strip anyway. So the landowner's getting paid for it. And I just, I don't see I just don't see anybody really wanting to farm that. It's gonna be tough anyways. Yeah. Somebody might make hay. I said you can take it around and do some stuff possibly with it, but I think you're just causing more problems than good, honestly, on going from 20 to 6. I mean, you're gonna have to mow 20 feet. Sure, you can mow 60, but it'd be more of a hassle. No, that's my opinion.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You good with that?
That's good. Yeah.
Leave it at 20?
I don't care.
What do you want to do?
No, I'd like, I'm not the president, but I'd like to see the board just go ahead and make quasi decision on this and move on to the next topic.
Hear you.
I mean, speak up.
Can't hear you.
I'm so sorry. I kind of like this to just make a decision on this. The truth is 20 foot, 60 foot. From the farming perspective, it sounds like, it's grass mowing anyways. And it sounds like perhaps, I mean, the contracts are the ones that have already been signed, that it's already paid for anyway. So, 20 foot, 60 foot from the farmer perspective seems like it's of no consequence. So I think we should look at that from the existing landowner's perspective of non-participant. I don't think that we can put a whole lot of thought into, what if somebody wants to build a house there in 10 years? I don't think we can put too much into that. It's way outside of our view.
Yes, sir.
Come on up so we can hear you.
I'm Dave Goldman.
Hi, Dave.
For all my life. Rick just said, okay, there's 60 feet. I got a 40-foot head. I can farm it. He just said it right there. I got a 40-foot head on my combine. I can farm it. If it's 20 feet, I cannot farm it. Okay, so I'm looking at this map over here. So we're showing these lines over here. So we're talking about how many miles is that? So how many 60 feet is how many acres in 1 mile? About roughly 5, a little over 5 acres.
Google knows. We'll compare.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, so even though it is 60 feet, it can be farmed. If it's 20 feet, it's gonna be grass. He was just talking, well, most stuff is 40 feet wide, 60 feet wide. Combine heads 30 to 60 feet, but at least it can be farmed. If it's 20 feet, it's not gonna be.
So maybe the 60 is better.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry I made you wait so long. We were kind of bouncing back and forth, but I didn't forget about you, I promise.
About 7 acres. Why? It's about 7 acres. So maybe that's better if trying to preserve the farmland part of it. That could be farmed.
Or just to keep it, like you said, from growing up in business.
Yeah.
Perhaps like how do you word that since it doesn't match A1 anymore?
So we could just make it state that meets the required setbacks for that zoning district. And in the case of A1, it would be 60 feet.
Sure. Make it so. Okay, and you wanted to talk about the 1320 now? Make sure you put that mic like like slide the whole base towards it. Right? Need it.
Oh yeah. So there was some question or quasi question about the structure versus the residence.
Yes.
Okay, can we clarify that?
The term residence is the structure, the house.
Sure. So So this couldn't be, say, you just had a barn on an acre and that would cause that to have the 1,300 plus foot setback.
That is correct. Yeah, you're looking at as a taxed residential structure. Yeah. And it's also with the clear statement that it is a pre-existing, so it's already there. And it is covered by the setback.
Does anybody on the board want to discuss that?
I don't think know what you're saying.
He's saying a barn is considered a structure, right? So if it's a barn, even though no one's living in it, it meets the 1320 setback.
But the ordinance doesn't say structure, it says residence.
And you want it to be structure? Or you're asking?
I'm asking
if we should
there's-
discuss that?
Yes. Because it may be that somebody has I hate getting into like the future stuff, but that they have a barn where there was once a home. Okay, to go back to your example from earlier with the setbacks, that nobody's living there now at that property, but it still has, let's say, the wellhead and it still has the septic, and they could easily put a home there, but it's not a residence. Does that not have to have 1,300 foot plus setback?
Not as it's written right now, no, it would not.
So if you, now we'll just forget that there's no well, let's pretend that there's no wellhead, there's no septic of any kind. But there is significant structures, say for storing equipment of whatever kind, right? Also does not need the 1,300 plus foot setback.
That is correct.
Do you know how you would word that?
So there,
You say residence or significant structure?
well, what is the significance?
Exactly.
So that would be a very tough thing to.
That's why I was saying I don't know how to word that.
You'd have to say that a structure over a certain square footage or something like that.
And you probably also have to say permanent structure.
Yeah, I mean, you have multiple things that could come into play. One. You don't want it to be in a situation where there'd be a woods with a shed, and that is a setback.
I think we're gonna get into some serious weeds with that.
I think you have to just state it, the residential structure, the residence. And I guess I'm gonna go back to our job, trying to preserve property value. That's one of our charges. A study that was done, University of North Carolina, that talks about residential property value. Not pole barn property values, not doghouse property values, not a grain bin property value, residential property values. I think we have to go back to it's to a residence.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I think that's the only thing we can really defend.
And from reading that study, I would agree that it actually said that the impact on a larger lot or agricultural property in general is actually more likely to be positive. But a residential property, a small acreage, is where the concern is.
Which leads me to my question. And it was mentioned to change the 1,320 from the pre-existing residence to the property line. Would you be able to, and I'm just throwing this out there because I don't have an opinion one way or the other, instead of seeing all those little circles on there, if it was a property line, if you ordered it the property line of the residence, then the circles on the map go from polka dots to squares.
Yes.
Therefore,
But then so that adds to the question. Again, so if we look at that study, it broke down small lots and big lots. Big lot impact negligible, the small lot impact possibly. If a house is on a 20-acre parcel, why does it get more protection than one that's on a 5-acre parcel or a 2-acre parcel?
So we're looking specifically at paddlefish projects.
okay,
Now, we're trying to make a zoning ordinance for the whole county.
Yep.
But looking at this, there are parcels kind of scattered around in this one that aren't green. They didn't sign up. They didn't want solar on their farm. It doesn't matter that they care whether it's on somebody else's. All we really know is that they chose not to do it on their own. So if you have a house that's on an 80-acre farm, when you start making that 1320 setback from the property line of that 80-acre farm, because that's the parcel, they're covering an area that's 3 times the size of what they own. I'm willing to increase the setbacks to give people more of a setback from this, from their homes. But I think that's really getting excessive.
what do you mean the property line?
When you start going off the property line, especially if you have a house that's on an 80-acre farm. That's another 80 on each side of it that it's covering. That's
I always thought the houses on an 80-acre farm were taxed separately on the residence base.
that's why I think you have to go back to where's the house?
Okay, so the way I see it then, if, we want to ordinance this out of existence, then you either say, look, well, we can for sure get this out, but that's where this is headed. And then we can say, you know, we could do what some folks here have asked us to do and say, bump this up to say 5,000 foot, for instance, that was kind of what's thrown out. Or you can effectively do the same thing by doing this off of the property lines in most cases. That either of those two things are a surefire way of accomplishing that. But if that's not what we're here and about to do as we go through the next couple of questions, then the property line, then we need to have a slightly different discussion about the setback number in general.
Brenda brought up a good point that, the commissioners said they don't want this. So his suggestion was to do a 5,000 foot setback. That would take care of a lot of your problems that you're talking about.
I would really like to hear that from the commissioner, not secondhand, and nothing with Ms. Graham. I'd really like to hear that from a commissioner that their goal is to ban this. I have not heard that from a commissioner. No commissioner spoke to me. I'd really like to hear that from them. What I remember being said was, here is an ordinance, plan commission, take a look at it. That's what I remember hearing.
That's what you heard is correct.
And didn't the commissioners and all the municipalities accept the ordinance as is?
Yes,
Like
Yes.
recently,
within the last few years.
within the last few years?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think they said there may need to be changes. Plan commission, take a look at it.
Yep. I think overall, I think the only two things that I can see, without just, digressing any further, is to make small scale to 20 and to make the setback 60 and call it good, in my opinion. Or we'll be here all night and we need to get a best plan in place. I think Mike has done a tremendous job with the 5 points that he has created and the items that we've looked over. I don't think we need to force him to go back and reinvent the wheel that we've been working on for a long, long time. So if you guys are okay with those two changes, we can move on.
And our job tonight is to make a recommendation to commissioners, all the legislative bodies, for them to make the final decision.
Correct.
So if they want it to be a 5,000 foot setback, they can do that. They can change.
Right. So I like the extra, I like the matching of the 60 feet with the roadway, and I like going from 10 to 20 to not limit large business if they want to come. So I think those are the two tweaks, and I think we move on.
Wasn't the 60 foot, wasn't that gonna be based on what the zoning is, not a solid 60 foot no matter what?
It's not
60 if it's A1.
60 except for an A1. Well, it's the zoning district setback except for A1, which would be 60 feet.
Okay.
So that's how I've got it written here. The one thing I would like to talk about, if we are to consider an increase of any type in the non-participating pre-existing residential setbacks, is the reasoning behind that. I think, Jared, you already mentioned in regards to that our task is to preserve property values in our community. It's not to make them go up. It's to preserve. The other part of that, generally speaking, setbacks are a tool that help to preserve those property values. It also is a tool that is used consistently from the very beginnings of zoning to create a uniform look in a community, which is also a tool that, again, preserves property values. It gives a reasonable expectation of development between neighbors so that there isn't one person doing one thing and another doing another, which would create something that is different, which then makes it harder to preserve the property values. So looking at those, looking at the Vision 2035 plan, which was, talked about tonight by the public, it is very much accurate for what it was portrayed to state. So that is another tool that would state that there is comprehensive plan support for increase of setbacks because of the concerns brought up. We wanted to look at those specific things. Whatever the number is, we're looking at in those glasses. Preserving property values, creating a consistent development pattern in the zoning district, and following the comprehensive plan.
Mike, did you say could change the setback? Could the commissioners change the setback to whatever they want?
I think at the point that we would send a recommendation, the commissioners can choose to accept our recommendation. They can choose to reject our recommendation. They can also choose to do nothing with it and let our recommendation go through. I do believe if they would say, no, I don't like that number specifically, that in this case, they would send that back to us with reasoning to make a new recommendation. So a little different than in a rezoning case, where they could add a restrictive covenant or something like that. And the ordinance amendment, I believe that would be demanded back to us, and then we would have this hearing again with a new project.
Basically, they would say to us, we're gonna reject what you sent in. We want this number. We're okay with everything else you did. We want this number percent. Is that?
Yes. Yeah. So if they said, this specific item, and a matter of fact, we did that. If you recall some of the stuff that's happened historically, that there's been things that came back and we went through the process again. Like in one case, there was a ordinance amendment that wasn't adopted by the town of Veracruz for a little bit, and that they did. There were some changes made. It was taken on by all the jurisdictions.
So if we want to change the 20 or 10 acre to 28, do we need to do that like with a motion individually, or we just?
I would say that, so the two amendments that we put into play here, that would be made as part of the
To accept the ordinance amendments as is with the two amendments.
Tyson, you want to wait for a response?
Yep, okay. I'd like to increase the, just for kicks and giggles, throw out to the board, I'd like to increase the 1320 to 1500.
What did you say? I'm sorry.
I hear what you said.
I'd like to increase the 1320 to 1500.
Yeah, speak into the mic.
Thank you, Jeff. That's good advice. Does anybody have a problem with that?
At this point, just get something to the commissioners.
Yeah, I want those.
Now,
I'd like those three items.
Start of it, just
1300. I want to increase that to 1500. I'd like the 20 to go to 60 and the 10 on the small to go to 20. Three changes. I think Mike's done a tremendous job. Questions?
Do you feel that the 1500 better answers the three items that I talked about?
I do feel better answers those items.
Excuse me, repeat that.
I just asked if the 1500, if Tyson felt the 1500 better answered the three items that I brought up in regards to the reasons for using setbacks with preserving the property values, consistent development pattern.
Yeah, I do. Cool.
I just feel that, yeah, I feel that the setback numbers are unnecessarily burden to some and unnecessarily favor to others. So I think that solar is probably fantastically bullish. That's a lot to say. 1300 plus 1500 foot. And I personally don't understand why we can't send a recommendation that matches concentrated beacon operations.
I think as president, I'm trying to balance the wants and needs. What we've been asked to do is give our recommendation. Here's our recommendation. Here's our best shot. So I'm listening to everybody and what they've thought, public, board, the whole deal. I think that what's been created is our best shot. And with those three tweaks or the three amendments that we would like to do to that, I think that of the large amount of things that Mike's done, I believe that those three things are relatively minor, and we send it as is with those three items. Understood? Okay. Need a motion?
And the reminder in this is a recommendation item.
Yeah.
Agree with the options.
Yeah, so when you do make the motion, it would be a do pass recommendation with whatever amendments you would like to add, a do not pass or a no recommendation.
Motion, we do have a two-pass recommendation with the 60-foot setback. Changing the 1320 to 1500 and 20 acres on a small scale.
All right, we have a motion to a do pass recommendation as presented with three amendments. Do we have a second? Second. Any further discussions before the vote? No, board members. Keep the comments closer. No further discussion? All in favor, right hand? No, same sign. On the favor, in favor, six. Yes. Six. Yep. That passes. Okay, moving on. Other business. Okay, so next up on the agenda, the planning commission is the other business item. That was our 2026 meeting calendar. You have planning commission board members, you have this document packet with highlighted dates on it. Something that the board wanted to do in the office this year a little differently is show the plan commission, APC, and plat committee calendars separate. So you can see that down there. Otherwise, plat committee was shown inside the plan commission schedule. So we are showing that the dates that are highlighted are dates that are off of the first Thursday of the month. So just note that. So you can see the 4 dates on the plan commission's calendar that are not that fall, which all of them would fall in this Thursday of the month.
Like, is this on the website?
It will be. The current calendar is still on the website. The proposed one is not. Yes, we would need a motion to approve.
Move to approve the dates and times for the 2026 calendar for ABC, plat committee, and board of zoning. Second.
So motion is second. All in favor, right hand? Opposed, same sign. Who seconded that? Bill. Bill Brandon. All right, next up is update on the Vision 2035 comprehensive planning process. So right now the Wells County master plan is moving through the city of Bluffton. The 3 vision statements that the different groups are working on are moving towards the final steps. So again, on schedule to get those into draft form by the end of the year. And then we would be looking at the adoption of the Wells County Master Plan recommendation like we do for the comprehensive plan from the Plan Commission, and then through to its individual jurisdictions. Again, this master plan covers all of our participating jurisdictions except for the town of Zanesville, which has already done a master plan, which this one is designed to fit within, as well as master plan process of the town of Markle, which is outside of the jurisdiction also. So both those projects are also entailed into that. Any questions on the Vision 2035? How many entities does it pass through?
So the same, so the Wells County, the city of Bluffton, as far as the master plan, the town of Ossian, Benito, Veracruz, and Uniondale. Okay. And then Zanesville, we use the existing master plan and we consult with the town of Bluffton. Okay. a quick update on revitalization and trails updates. So these items, both of these items were big parts of the Wells County Master Plan. There's specifically large parts what the city of Bluffton is working through their section. Again, the new goal is to put together a plan for the next 10 years, to look what we want to do with trails and revitalization. Also, the POCAMAS Task Force is working on reapplying for the build grant, for engineering and planning for the 80-mile trail project that would potentially connect Pulaski State Park to Pulaski State Park. Final update, or a couple updates here. Housing study updates. So with that, we've had further discussion with future housing growth and striking a balance between rental and owner occupied is becoming as a conversation that's growing. It is a topic that's being discussed in the master plan. So we're going to be looking at hearing more about those items in the future. And then the final thing, an advisory, not in any way stating that the Plan Commission's meeting should be removed off of live streaming, to understand that there has been clarification made, and we are not one of the boards that is under the requirements for live streaming retention. So that has been brought up. Just wanted to let you know that. Though we fully believe, unless the board believes otherwise, that live streaming is a great value, and we were doing it well ahead of time before the requirements were anyways. But just wanted to bring that up so that you're aware of that. So if it's a retention issue, we're not covered by that. We do have a good thing working with Facebook and YouTube, and want to continue to use that feature.
Yeah, I like it. I think the live stream's great.
I agree. It's another form of access for those that may not be able to physically come into the meetings.
I agree. We've been pretty full before, and people have live streamed outside as well on their phone. So it's been to an advantage in my opinion. I'd like to continue it.
Yeah. I mean, matter of fact, right now there's 7 people watching live. So just
Two of those are my kids. 7.
Some of them are kids. It's not my good. I didn't hang out this long. There could have been more before. They just dropped out, you know?
We took about 7 markers out there. That's great. Do we have a meeting? Do we have a next meeting? Date by chance? January 8th. So we are meeting?
Yes.
Calendar, ladies and gents. January the 8th. Anything else? Right?
I don't have anything else.
Okay. I need a motion to adjourn. I need a second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, right hand. Close, same sign. We are adjourned.
This is real quick public service announcement. So part of having a meeting in this location, there is a lot of setup and tear down effort. Many hands make light work of it. So if you're willing to stay after the meeting here and stack chairs and stacks of 10 or help load the tables up, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you.